Students shall not pass a course unless they say that The Lord of the Rings is offensive. The Telegraph reports J.R.R. Tolkien's work, particularly The Lord of the Rings, is currently under intense academic scrutiny for alleged ethnic chauvinism. This critique centers on the sharp moral and physical dichotomy established in Middle-earth between the virtuous, fair-skinned inhabitants of the West, such as the Elves, the Men of Gondor, and the Rohirrim, and the legions of darkness that hail from the East and South. Critics point specifically to the depictions of the villainous Easterlings and Haradrim, who are often described with darker features and portrayed as inherently subservient to Sauron and morally corrupt, suggesting the fantasy framework harbors problematic real-world racial archetypes. This academic debate challenges the traditional view of Tolkien's epic as a purely moral struggle between good and evil, instead interpreting the racial and geographic alignment as reinforcing a Western-centric and potentially supremacist worldview. Scholars involved in the critique argue that the clear-cut, rigid separation of good and evil races, such as the monstrous subhuman orcs, reflects an unsophisticated, biologically determined form of prejudice. The discussion is part of a broader cultural movement that re-examines classical texts through a modern, post-colonial lens, questioning the implicit biases within foundational fantasy mythology. However, there is a robust defense mounted by Tolkien scholars and enthusiasts. Defenders of the work argue that the thematic divisions are primarily mythological and moral, not political or ethnic. They frequently cite Tolkien's personal opposition to Nazi racial ideology and his lifelong commitment to creating a deep, consistent mythology rooted in linguistic history, arguing that his focus was on environmentalism, courage, and the corruption of power, not promoting racial divisions. The core of the defense is that the darkness in the East is a narrative device representing moral decay and the influence of evil, not a commentary on real-world ethnicity. Personally, I think these faux scholars need to get their own heads out of their asses and quit equating everything to race and colonialism. Also, if you look at the orcs and see real-world human equivalents, that's a you problem. But let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comment section.